Okay, we're going to start in Excel Unit B, working with formulas and functions. Your objectives for this unit is to create a complex formula, insert a function, type a function, copy and move cell entries, understand relative and absolute cell reference, copy formulas with relative cell reference, and copy formulas with absolute cell reference, and finally round a value with the function. I am on page Excel 26 now, creating a complex function. A complex function is one that uses more than one math operator. Excel uses the standard order of precedence rules or order of operation rules to determine which operation to perform first. So it's still the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Yeah, and so forth. So we need to open Excel B-1, so remember multimedia. Go to your folder, whether it's spring or fall. Go to the Excel folder, Unit B, B-1. Okay, we need to save this, so go File and Save As. Remember, click up here on your name, go to Assignments, create a new folder called Excel Unit B. In that folder, you are to save this as EXB-Tour Expense Analysis. Okay, click in cell B14 and type equals. So we're starting a formula because we are typing equals. Click the cell B12, type the plus sign, click B12 again, and type asterisk, which is also multiplication, 0.2. And then press enter. Use your fill handle to fill across from B12 through E12. And then save your work. Okay, this formula that you just created is you are taking B12, which is the total of quarter one, and finding a 20% increase or 20% rise. So the second part of the formula, B12 times 20%, is finding 20% of what B12 is. Then you're adding B12 back in to find a 20% rise from quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? To find a 20% decrease, what you would do is just change this to subtraction instead of addition. Let's go ahead and flip over to page 28 and click in cell B15. Click the Insert Function button and click Average, and then click OK. It gives you a box of all of your numbers. Click the little box that says, what's that? It allows you to collapse the button, so it collapses the cells, and I want you to select the range B4 to B11. When you are doing average formulas, never include the total. When you are doing maximum and minimum, never include the total. Okay? The total will skew all of your numbers, so that way it won't be an accurate reading. Go ahead and click the collapse button again to bring you back to the box and click OK. So now, another way to get to the average formula, click in cell C15. Go up to your AutoSum button, and instead of clicking on AutoSum, click the down arrow and click average. And what it does is it automatically says, okay, C14, you want the average of C14. Well, we don't. We want the average of C4 through C11. And then you can press enter. So now I want you to fill across to D and E15. And let's save. Functions, since we just did one, functions are predefined worksheet formulas that enable you to perform complex calculations easily. Meaning, average, when you find the average of math, you have to add up all of these numbers and then divide by the number you have. Average will, when you use this complex function, it'll automatically do all of that information for you. Go ahead and turn the page to page 30. Typing a function. So in B16, type equals, because you always start a function or a formula with equals, and put M, and then go ahead and click on max. And select your range B4 to B11 and close the parenthesis. Press enter. For your minimum, you type equals min, open parenthesis, B4 through B11, close parenthesis, and press enter. Okay, so now select those two cells and let's fill across. And then you can save your work. Okay, select the range B3 to E3 and click the copy button. Click the dialog box launcher, which, remember, clipboard has a launcher button. Click cell B19 and click paste. Okay, so we decided we didn't want it there, so let's press delete. Click in cell B20 and click on the first item in the clipboard group, and we can close the clipboard. Click in cell A, click in cell A14 and select the range A14 to A17. And press and hold your control key, and notice how my mouse changes to a little regular pointer with a plus sign. Click and drag down to A21. Then release. Okay, in cell A21, where it says 20%, we want to change the 2 to a 3. So you'll actually select it in your formula bar, change the 2 to a 3. Click in cell B21, and I want you to type equals. Click cell B12, and I want you to multiply, so the asterisk, which is Shift 8 or between the minus and the divide sign on the number keypad, and type 1.3 and press enter. So the difference between this formula for 30% rise and this formula for 20% rise is really nothing. What it's doing is for this formula in B21, it's telling Excel, okay, B12 times itself. So this is like 130%. So it's taking it 100% of itself plus an additional 30% to get this number. So 20%, all we're doing is we're taking, with order of precedence, it'll take B12 times 0.2, which is finding 20%, and then adding it back into B12. So that's it, more or less through the same formula. So either one will work for your assignments. Alright, let's go ahead and save our work. We're just going to do 30% to show you the difference in the formulas. Okay, the next part is understanding relative and absolute cell reference. Relative cell referencing is when you want to preserve the relationship to a formula location. Meaning, when you create a formula that references another cell, Excel normally does not record the exact cell address for the cell being referenced in the formula. Instead, it looks at the relationship that cell has to the cell containing the formula. For example, in figure B12, the cell F5 contains a formula sum of B5 through E5. When Excel retrieves a value to calculate the formula in Excel F5, it actually looks for the four cells to the left of the formula, which in this case is B5 to E5. This way, if you copy the cell to a new location, such as F6, the results will reflect a new formula location and will automatically retrieve the cells B6, C6, and D6, and E6. These are relative cell reference because Excel is recording the input in the relation to or relative to the formula cell. In most cases, you want to use relative cell referencing when copying or moving. So this is an Excel default. Okay, so what it's telling you is, for example, when we created our formula B12 plus B12 times 0.2, and then we filled across to C12, D12, and E12. So what it did is Excel said, okay, B12, this is the cell I want to look at. So it's going to go over here and reference, so it's going to come and look at this cell. And it's going to say, okay, so now if I, so it's saying, okay, I need to look 2 cells above where I'm at. So C12 or C14, I need to look at 2 cells above where I'm at, so C12, to find my number to do the multiplication. Okay, so that's relative cell. Use absolute cell reference when you want to preserve the exact cell address in a formula. There are times when you want Excel to retrieve formula information from a specific cell, and you do not want the cell address in the formula to change when you copy to a new location. For example, you might have a price in a specific cell that you want to use in all formulas, regardless of their location. If you use relative cell referencing, the formula results would be incorrect because Excel would use different cell every time you copy the formula. Therefore, you need to use absolute cell reference, which is a reference that does not change when you copy the formula. So absolute means does not change in this case. You create an absolute cell reference by placing a $ in front of both the column letter and row number of the cell address. You can either type the $ when you're typing the cell address in the formula, or you can select the cell address on the formula bar and press F4 and the dollar sign will add automatically. Okay, and we're going to get ready and do some cell referencing in just a minute. Let's go ahead and turn over to page Excel 36, which is copying formulas with relative cell reference. Click the cell B21 and click the copy button. Click in cell C21 and click paste. Notice how it automatically goes to C12 times 1.3. Now let's use our fill handle and fill across from C12 to E12. Click the cell F4 and click the auto sum button. And then you can press enter. Use your fill handle from F4 and fill down to F11. We don't need to worry about F12. And then let's save our work. So this was all copying with relative cell reference. Remember, what it's doing is it's saying, okay, I need to look for the 4 cells next to me to add these numbers together. And then it does the same thing all the way down. Let's turn over and do some Excel formulas with absolute cell reference. Click in cell G1 and type change and press enter. Then type 1.1 and press enter. Click in cell H3 and type what if. Press enter. In cell H4, type equals F4, so click the cell F4, times G2 and press enter. And now I want you to click on cell G4 and fill down to F11. And you should automatically get zeros. The reason that you get zeros is because you have nothing in these cells available to go into this cell reference. So it's saying, okay, I need to go 1 cell over here, or go over 2 cells, and then I need to multiply by 3 cells. Well, there's nothing there. So it's saying, okay, it's got to be 0. So let's go into H4, and I want you to click in your formula bar in G2, like right in the middle of G2. And I want you to press F4 on your keyboard. F4 on your keyboard puts the dollar signs in there. Go ahead and press enter. And now I want you to fill down to F11. So notice now it's saying, okay, every one of these should be F5 times G2, times G2, times G2. Okay, so it's saying we want to continually reference G2. Let's change G2 to, instead of 1.1, we want it to be 1.2 and press enter. Notice when you press enter for 1.2, your entire formula changes. Let's go ahead and save our work. Click in cell B14, and in the formula bar to the right of the equal sign between equals and B, I want you to put your insertion point and type RO. And it should give us a round, and we want the round formula. So double click round. It automatically gives us the open parenthesis. So then go to the end of 0.2 and type comma 0 close parenthesis and press enter. Then I want you to fill across to E14. So what your round formula does, or round function, is it says, okay, I see this formula that's in this cell. Now, I want to round it to 0 decimal places. You can change that 0 to 5, and it has to show, if it had 5 decimal places, would show 5 decimal places. However, we don't want any decimal places, so we want it to be 0. Okay, go ahead and save your work, and then you can close, and we are done.